Have you ever felt like someone is stealing your peace, your time, or even your dignity? What if I told you that there are 9 things you should never accept from anyone, and that knowing them could change your life forever? Today we are going to reveal those toxic behaviors that, if you do not identify them in time, can drain you emotionally and divert you from your path to happiness. Stay until the end, because what you will learn here will give you the power to transform your relationships and, above all, your life. You won't want to miss it. Destructive criticism is clearly distinguished from constructive criticism by its intent and impact. While constructive criticism seeks to offer valuable suggestions that can improve some skill or behavior, destructive criticism aims to undermine the person's confidence and self-esteem. Constructive criticism focuses on the specific problem or behavior and is presented in a way that motivates positive change, encouraging personal or professional growth. By contrast, destructive criticism targets the individual rather than his or her actions, emphasizing his or her failures in a way that causes pain, humiliation, or confusion. This type of criticism is not intended to help, but is a reflection of the insecurity or frustration of the person who issues it. Constantly receiving this type of criticism can be devastating to your self-esteem, leading you to doubt your own abilities and question your value as a person. Over time, the repetition of these attacks can create a critical inner voice that accompanies you everywhere, undermining your self-confidence in situations where you previously felt safe. Destructive criticism drags you into a spiral of negativity in which you begin to see only your flaws and mistakes, losing sight of your achievements and positive qualities. This cycle can have long-term effects on your mental health, contributing to anxiety, depression, and other emotional problems. The key is to recognize when criticism is meant to hurt you rather than help you, and learn to set clear boundaries to protect your emotional well-being. Developing the ability to filter out criticism, accepting only those that are truly meant to help you improve, is essential to maintaining healthy self-esteem. After all, no one deserves to be the victim of destructive criticism, and walking away from those who practice it is an act of self-love that will allow you to grow in a more positive and constructive environment. Emotional manipulation is an insidious form of control that can be difficult to detect because it is often disguised as concern or affection. One of the most common techniques is gaslighting, where the manipulator distorts reality to make the victim doubt their memory, perception, or judgment. This can include denying that something happened, claiming that the victim is exaggerating, or reinterpreting events in a way that makes the victim feel confused and dependent on the manipulator to understand reality. Another common technique is emotional blackmail, in which the manipulator uses fear, guilt, or love to force the victim to do what he wants. For example, a manipulator may threaten to end a relationship or harm themselves if the victim does not comply with their wishes. Victimization is also frequent, where the manipulator presents himself as the victim in all situations, forcing the other person to feel guilty and take responsibility for his or her emotional well-being. These techniques are extremely harmful because, over time, they erode the victim's autonomy and self-esteem, making them feel that they cannot make decisions for themselves or that they are responsible for the manipulator's emotional problems. In personal relationships, emotional manipulation can lead to a cycle of codependency, where the victim continually sacrifices their own well-being to keep the peace or satisfy the manipulator. This can cause the victim to lose their identity, interests, and independent relationships, becoming trapped in a toxic and suffocating dynamic. In the professional field, emotional manipulation can manifest itself in forms such as micromanagement, constant disregard or exploitation of the victim's sense of responsibility. A manipulative boss or coworker may prey on the victim's desire to be useful or valued, burdening them with unnecessary tasks or imposing unattainable expectations, all while undermining their confidence and causing them to doubt their abilities. The long-term impact of emotional manipulation can be devastating, leading to anxiety, depression, and a deep distrust of others. To break this cycle, it's crucial to recognize the signs of emotional manipulation and learn to set firm boundaries. This may mean confronting the manipulator, seeking outside support, or in some cases, cutting off the relationship altogether. Although it is a difficult and often painful process, freeing yourself from emotional manipulation is an essential step in regaining control of your life and protecting your mental health. Emotional manipulation not only distorts relationships, but it also impedes personal and professional growth by keeping the victim in a constant state of confusion and dependency. Disrespect is a behavior that, although it may sometimes seem subtle, has a profound impact on our relationships and our self-esteem. Examples of disrespectful behavior include constantly interrupting someone when they are talking, ignoring their opinions or decisions, making fun of their beliefs or interests, and making derogatory comments about their appearance, abilities, or intelligence. Another common example is belittling, where one person tries to minimize the accomplishments or efforts of another, letting them feel that what they do is never enough or worthless. It also manifests itself in more aggressive forms, such as direct insults, public humiliation, or ridicule, which seek to degrade and control the victim through shame or fear. Tolerating disrespect has serious long-term consequences. When we accept this type of behavior, we send the message that it's okay for others to treat us badly, which can lead to a downward spiral where mutual respect disintegrates and relationships become increasingly toxic. On a personal level, tolerating disrespect can erode our self-esteem and make us feel unworthy of better treatment. Over time, we begin to internalize derogatory comments or attitudes, which can lead us to believe that we truly deserve to be treated that way. This can result in a significant decrease in confidence in ourselves and our abilities, which affects not only our personal relationships, but also our performance in other aspects of life, such as work or studies. In addition, disrespect in a relationship establishes a pattern of behavior that can be difficult to break. The more tolerated it becomes, the harder it becomes to set boundaries and demand dignified treatment, perpetuating the cycle of emotional or verbal abuse. The victim may begin to feel trapped, unable to defend themselves, or to walk away from the situation, as continued disrespect drains their emotional energy and ability to make healthy choices. On an interpersonal level, lack of respect generates resentment and mistrust, which can eventually lead to the breakdown of the relationship or, in the event that it continues, to a coexistence loaded with tensions and unresolved conflicts. In a professional setting, tolerating disrespect can hurt your reputation and career. When you allow colleagues or superiors to treat you with contempt, others may see this as a sign of weakness, which could make you an easier target for future abuse or to be overlooked on important opportunities. Accepting disrespectful behaviors can also negatively affect your productivity and job satisfaction, as working in an environment where your contribution is not valued can decrease your motivation and commitment. Ultimately, disrespect not only deteriorates relationships and self-esteem, but it also limits your ability to grow and thrive in any aspect of your life. It's crucial to recognize the signs of disrespect and address them proactively. This can involve confronting the person who is disrespecting you, setting clear boundaries, and in some cases, walking away from the situation if there is no positive change. Disrespect should not be accepted as part of any relationship, as each individual deserves to be treated with dignity and consideration. By insisting on mutual respect, you not only protect your emotional well-being, but you also strengthen your relationships, creating an environment where everyone feels valued and heard. Dishonesty is one of the most corrosive factors in any relationship, whether personal or professional. When a person lies, an implicit pact of trust that is essential to the stability and health of any human interaction is broken. Trust is like the cement that holds together the structure of our relationships. When it breaks down, the whole relationship can fall apart. Dishonesty breeds doubt and suspicion, leading you to question not only the other person's words and actions, but also your own perceptions and judgments. Once someone lies to you, it is difficult to fully trust that person again, since there is always the doubt of whether what they say is true or if they are hiding something else. This constant state of uncertainty is exhausting and can create an emotional barrier that prevents intimacy and open communication, key aspects in any meaningful relationship. As the lies pile up, the erosion of trust intensifies. Even small lies, which some might consider harmless, can have a devastating cumulative effect. When you find out you've been cheated on, you start questioning every aspect of the relationship, wondering how many other things might have been false. This process can lead to a cycle of distrust that is difficult to break, as each lie uncovered reinforces the idea that the person in question is not trustworthy. Dishonesty can also foster an imbalanced power dynamic, where the person lying has control over the information and therefore the relationship itself. This creates a toxic environment where manipulation and deception become common tools to maintain that control at the expense of the other person's emotional well-being. To handle dishonesty, it's essential to learn how to spot the signs of a lie. Inconsistencies in stories, changes in body language, avoidance of details, and excessive defensiveness when questioned are some of the indications that someone could be lying. However, detecting a lie is only the first step. The hardest thing is deciding how to handle it. Confronting a person about their dishonesty can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary to maintain the integrity of the relationship. It's important to approach the topic in a direct but not accusatory way, making it clear how lying affects you and why honesty is crucial to the future of the relationship. In some cases, lying can be a symptom of deeper problems in the relationship, such as insecurity or fear of confrontation, and it is helpful to explore these roots so that you can resolve the problem more effectively. If dishonesty persists, it may be necessary to reevaluate the relationship as a whole. Not all relationships can or should be saved if they are based on a pattern of deception. In some cases, the best option for your well-being may be to distance yourself or end the relationship. Staying in a relationship where dishonesty is prevalent not only erodes trust in the other person, but it can also damage your ability to trust future relationships. It's essential to protect your emotional well-being and set clear boundaries on what you're willing to accept in your relationships. Recognizing the impact of dishonesty and taking steps to manage it is a crucial step in maintaining healthy, balanced relationships. Honesty is the foundation on which trust is built, and without it, it is impossible to create a genuine and lasting bond. Devaluation is a subtle but powerful form of emotional abuse that, if not detected early, can slowly erode self-esteem and self-perception. Recognizing when someone is putting you down isn't always easy, as it can manifest itself in many ways, some of which may seem harmless or even disguised as concern or humor. Constant comments that minimize your accomplishments, unfavorable comparisons to other people, or a lack of recognition for your efforts are all clear signs that someone is trying to devalue you. Sometimes the devaluation comes in the form of hurtful jokes or sarcasm, where the person making them justifies their comments by saying they were just joking or playing. It can also be evident when someone ignores your opinions, constantly interrupts you, or makes you feel like your ideas and feelings aren't important. This type of behavior can make you doubt your worth and lead you to accept less than you deserve in all areas of your life. It's critical to be aware of these patterns and not allow them to normalize in your relationships. When you're faced with devaluation, it's crucial to stop and evaluate how you feel after interacting with that person. If you're constantly feeling belittled, undervalued, or unappreciated, it's a sign that you're being devalued. Devaluation, if allowed to continue, can have devastating effects on your self-esteem. As you get used to being treated as if you don't have value, you may begin to believe that you really don't. This can lead you to accept behaviors and situations that are unacceptable, simply because you've been conditioned to think that you don't deserve anything better. Over time, this pattern can spread to other areas of your life, affecting your relationships, your work, and even your mental health. Valuing yourself is essential to counteract the effects of devaluation. Acknowledging your own worth doesn't mean being arrogant or self-centered, but having a healthy understanding of your strengths, abilities, and what you bring to others. This also means recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity in all your interactions. One of the most important steps in valuing yourself is setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are a way to protect your emotional well-being and ensure that the people around you treat you fairly and respectfully. This can include clearly communicating when a comment or behavior makes you feel bad, or making the decision to walk away from people who consistently devalue you. Setting boundaries isn't always easy, especially if you're used to putting the needs of others before your own, but it's a vital skill for maintaining healthy relationships. Abuse, whether physical or verbal, is one of the most devastating forms of mistreatment, and has a profound impact on the mental health of victims. Physical abuse includes any form of bodily assault, such as hitting, shoving, shaking, or any other action that causes physical harm. Verbal abuse, while leaving no visible marks, is equally destructive. It manifests itself through insults, humiliation, threats, shouting, or any type of communication that seeks to degrade, control, or intimidate the victim. Recognizing the signs of abuse is crucial to being able to take action and protect yourself. These signs may include a pattern of controlling behavior on the part of the abuser, such as isolating you from friends and family, controlling your finances, monitoring your movements or decisions, and minimizing or denying your experience of abuse. Physical abuse can leave visible marks, but it is often accompanied by excuses or justifications by the abuser, such as saying that it wasn't that bad or that the victim provoked it. In the case of verbal abuse, the signs may be less obvious at first, but over time, constant belittling, threats, and criticism destroy the victim's self-esteem and confidence. The impact of abuse on mental health is profound and long-lasting. Victims of physical or verbal abuse often experience anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and a lingering sense of fear and vulnerability. Abuse can leave victims feeling trapped, powerless, and isolated, often leading them to doubt themselves and their ability to get out of the situation. Constant exposure to verbal or physical violence erodes self-confidence and can lead to emotional dependence on the abuser, who often manipulates the victim into believing that they have no other options or that they do not deserve anything better. In addition, the cycle of abuse, where periods of aggression are followed by apologies or promises of change, can create a dynamic of hope and hopelessness that traps the victim in the relationship. This emotional roller coaster increases confusion and despair, making it even more difficult for the victim to recognize the gravity of the situation and seek help. Unfair demands are those expectations or demands that exceed reasonable limits, often placing you in situations of stress or discomfort. These demands can arise in any type of relationship, from the personal, such as in friendships or relationships, to the professional, such as in the work environment. Identifying when you're facing unfair demands is the first step to protecting your well-being. A clear sign that a demand is irrational is when you're asked for more than is humanly possible, whether in terms of time, resources, or energy. This can include unrealistic expectations about your availability, such as always having to be on command or responding to urgent needs that disrupt your personal life or rest. It can also manifest in forms of emotional manipulation, where you are expected to sacrifice your own wants and needs to satisfy those of others, without regard for your own limits or capabilities. Another indication of an irrational demand is when there is no reciprocity in the relationship, when you are always expected to be the one to give in, to give more, or to adjust to the needs of the other without receiving the same level of commitment or support in return. Identifying these irrational demands requires an honest observation of how you feel when faced with these demands. If you're constantly feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or resentful, you're likely dealing with expectations that aren't fair or balanced. It's important to pay attention to patterns. If you're always the one who ends up making sacrifices, or if you feel like your boundaries are continually being ignored or crossed, then you're dealing with behavior that's outside the bounds of reason. Often these demands are subtly presented at first, but over time they can escalate to ever-increasing demands, making it vital to identify them early before they become the norm in the relationship. In addition, the way lawsuits are filed can also be a sign. If someone reacts with anger, manipulation, or guilt when you try to say no, it's an indication that they're not respecting your boundaries and are making unfair demands. Once you've identified these unfair demands, the next step is to set healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries does not mean being inflexible or selfish. It's about protecting your well-being and making sure that the relationships in your life are balanced and respectful. To set these boundaries, you must first be clear about what you are willing and unwilling to do. This requires honest reflection on your needs, your abilities, and your comfort level in different situations. Once you've defined your boundaries, it's critical to communicate these clearly and directly. This can be difficult, especially if you're not used to saying no, but it's essential for maintaining your mental and emotional health. You can practice expressing your boundaries assertively, using phrases like, "I understand this is important to you, but right now, I can't meet this demand," or "I need to respect my break time, so I can't accept this commitment." Emotional blackmail is a manipulative form of control that uses fear, obligation, and guilt to influence another person's behavior. It's a tactic that often goes unnoticed because it's disguised as love, concern, or need, but its true purpose is to exert power over the victim's feelings and decisions. The emotional blackmailer uses the emotional bond they have with the victim to pressure them into acting according to their wishes, often at the cost of the victim's well-being or happiness. One of the most common forms of emotional blackmail is the use of veiled or direct threats. This may include threats to end the relationship, to harm yourself or others, or to disclose private information to cause embarrassment or harm. Often, these threats are accompanied by a victim-blaming justification, such as, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me," or "You make me feel so bad I don't know what I could do." Emotional blackmail can also manifest itself in the form of promises of reward or affection, but on the condition that the victim gives in to the blackmailer's demands. For example, one person might promise love, approval, or emotional stability, but only if the other person acts in a specific way that furthers the blackmailer's interests. The reason emotional blackmail is so effective is because it exploits the victim's deepest and most vulnerable emotions. The fear of losing an important relationship, the feeling of guilt for not meeting the expectations of the other, and the obligation to keep the peace or avoid conflict can lead the victim to give in to the blackmailer's demands, even when this goes against their own wishes or values. This type of manipulation creates a toxic cycle in which the victim feels trapped, unable to say no for fear of emotional or social consequences. Over time, emotional blackmail can lead to a loss of identity, where the victim constantly feels compelled to put the blackmailer's needs and desires above their own, weakening their self-esteem and ability to make independent decisions. In addition, the repetition of these tactics can cause the victim to become increasingly dependent on the blackmailer, mistakenly believing that their emotional well-being is in the hands of the other. Resisting emotional blackmail and maintaining emotional integrity requires a combination of self-awareness, setting boundaries, and external support. The first step is to recognize that you are being subjected to emotional blackmail. This involves paying attention to your own emotions and spotting patterns where you feel pressured, guilty, or fearful in response to someone else's demands. It's crucial to understand that the emotions you feel in these situations, such as fear or guilt, are being deliberately manipulated to control your behavior. Once you identify emotional blackmail, it's important to remember that you have the right to say no and that your needs and desires are equally valid. The key to resisting emotional blackmail is to set and maintain clear boundaries. This may mean rejecting the blackmailer's demands firmly and without getting into arguments or justifications that could be used against you. It's essential to communicate your boundaries clearly and stand your ground, even when the blackmailer tries to escalate their manipulative tactics. Emotional support is a fundamental need in life, especially during difficult times. We all face challenges, losses, or moments of crisis that can leave us vulnerable and emotionally drained. During these periods, the emotional support of others becomes an invaluable resource, helping us to feel understood, supported, and less alone in our struggles. Not only does this kind of support provide comfort and relief, but it can also offer an outside perspective that helps us see solutions we may not have considered. In addition, knowing that we have people we can trust reinforces our resilience and our ability to face adversity. The presence and empathy of others remind us that we are not alone and that our emotions are valid and shared, which can be crucial to our mental health and overall well-being. Sometimes, though, the people we trust aren't there when we need them most. This can be especially painful when it occurs during critical moments, such as a personal loss, health issue, or emotional crisis. A lack of support in these moments can make you feel abandoned, betrayed, or insignificant, exacerbating the pain or anxiety you're already experiencing. It's important to acknowledge and validate those feelings, as it's natural to feel hurt when those you trust don't meet expectations for support. The absence of emotional support during difficult times can not only affect your relationship with that person, but it can also influence how you perceive your other relationships and your personal worth. It can lead to a feeling of isolation and a distorted perception that you are not worthy of support or that your problems are not important. Dealing with people who aren't there when you need them requires a careful and thoughtful approach. First, it's helpful to try to understand why that person wasn't available. Sometimes there may be legitimate reasons, such as they themselves are going through a difficult time, they don't know how to offer support, or they simply don't understand the magnitude of what you're facing. However, if this pattern repeats itself and you feel consistently disappointed or abandoned, it's essential to reevaluate the dynamics of that relationship. That person may not have the emotional capacity to provide you with the support you need, and that doesn't necessarily mean they don't care about you. But their own limitations prevent them from being present in the way you want. Communicating your feelings is another crucial step. Talking openly about how you're feeling can help clear up misunderstandings and allow the other person to understand the impact of your absence. By expressing your needs and expectations in a direct but non-confrontational way, you give the other person the opportunity to correct their behavior in the future. You can say something like, "I felt really lonely when you weren't there for me during specific situation. Your support means a lot to me, and it would be helpful to know that I can count on you through difficult times." This conversation can be awkward, but it's necessary to set clear boundaries and to ensure that both parties understand the expectations within the relationship. If after communicating your feelings the person continues to be inconsistent or absent, you may need to adjust your expectations and boundaries in that relationship. This may mean relying less on that person emotionally or seeking support elsewhere, such as from more trusted friends, family members, or even mental health professionals. It's critical to surround yourself with people who value and respect your emotional needs, especially during difficult times. Creating a strong and reliable circle of support may take time and effort, but it's essential for your long-term well-being. It's also important to remember that emotional support doesn't always have to come from the same people in every situation. Different people can offer different types of support, and it's okay to have a varied network where each person fills a specific role. However, if a relationship consistently leaves you feeling lonely or let down, it may be necessary to consider whether that relationship is actually healthy for you. Relationships need to be two-way, and if you find yourself constantly giving without getting the support you need, it might be time to prioritize relationships that truly nurture you. Finally, strengthening your own sense of self-support is crucial. While the support of others is invaluable, it's also important to develop the ability to be your own pillar during difficult times. This doesn't mean you should face everything alone, but cultivating self-compassion, resilience, and the ability to manage your emotions will help you feel more secure, even when outside support is lacking. By combining a strong sense of self-support with healthy, supportive relationships, you'll be better equipped to face life's challenges with greater strength and confidence. Setting personal boundaries is essential to protecting your emotional and mental well-being. Throughout this analysis, we've explored 9 things you should never accept from anyone: destructive criticism, emotional manipulation, disrespect, lies and dishonesty, devaluation, physical or verbal abuse, unfair demands, emotional blackmail, and lack of support during difficult times. Each of these behaviors can have a profoundly negative impact on your life, undermining your self-esteem, confidence, and happiness. Destructive criticism and emotional manipulation, for example, can make you doubt your own abilities and perceptions, while disrespect and devaluation erode your sense of dignity and personal worth. Physical or verbal abuse and lying are direct forms of mistreatment that, if tolerated, can leave lasting scars on your mental and emotional health. Unfair demands and emotional blackmail try to control your actions through guilt, fear, or obligation, causing you to lose sight of your own needs and desires. Finally, the lack of support in difficult times leaves you feeling alone and helpless, just when you need support and understanding the most. By setting clear and firm boundaries in each of these areas, you not only protect yourself from the destructive effects of these behaviors, but you also send a clear message about your worth and what you're willing to accept in your relationships. Boundaries aren't just barriers you build to keep toxic people out, but they also act as guides that help you cultivate healthier, more meaningful relationships. By refusing to accept destructive criticism, for example, you give yourself permission to surround yourself with people who support you and motivate you to grow. By resisting emotional manipulation, you preserve your autonomy and ability to make decisions based on your own values. Setting boundaries against disrespect and devaluation reaffirms your right to be treated with dignity, while rejecting lies and dishonesty protects the integrity of your relationships. By not tolerating abuse in any form, you ensure that your environment is a safe space where you can thrive. Saying no to unfair demands and emotional blackmail strengthens your ability to prioritize your own needs without feeling guilty. And demanding emotional support in times of need ensures that you surround yourself with people who truly value and care for you. These boundaries, when set and respected, contribute to a fuller, happier life by creating a space where you can be yourself, without fear of judgment, manipulation, or mistreatment. By protecting yourself from negative influences and building relationships based on mutual respect and authenticity, you allow yourself to grow and flourish in an environment that nurtures your emotional and mental well-being. Living with clear boundaries not only improves the quality of your relationships, but it also strengthens your sense of identity and self-worth, allowing you to live a life that reflects your deepest values and desires. Ultimately, personal boundaries are not just a defense against abuse, but a powerful tool for building a life that is aligned with who you are and what you deserve. If you like this video and want more content that will help you grow and live better, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it. See you in the next video.